Pop quiz. What is the easiest thing to learn but hardest to master in gacha games? The answer is the gacha itself. You have no control over it, no way to know if you're lucky or not. Nothing is going to save you in this gacha hell. You either go big or go home. If we talk about the gacha scene in Genshin Impact, you'll notice that anytime a new limited banner is near, every content creator is going to tell you which units are most worth pulling and which ones are not. That's pretty helpful for a lot of people, I'm sure. But to me personally, it has been a long cycle of shoot you pull for A, B, C, D, and E and so forth, and I think it's about time that we ourselves understand the idea of pulling on these banners, whether they're worth it or not. And no, we're not going to use any form of leaked information to determine if you should pull for the characters. I can't stress it enough when I say to people, don't join the dark side. It's not like leaks are going to kill you or anything, it's just two reasons. One, you risk getting misinformation for future units from a beta that is constantly changing, and two, you risk getting spoiled and not doing yourself a favor to be excited about the future of Genshin. These are all unnecessary risks you can avoid, and I'm going to show you how. But why should you care about deciding these things by yourself? Why should you care about watching this video at all? Well, the goal of this is to help you know what characters you should go for without specific circumstances. I'm not going to show you each character and say if they're good or not in my videos. But after watching this video, hopefully you'll be able to make educated conclusions for yourself and save lots of primo gems without relying on anything but your own research. Except if you're a Leviathan or just want waifus or sponsors. You do whatever you want. So to begin, first of all, deciding to pull on limited banners is not just about if the character is going to deal big damage or not, or if they're going to change everything and whatnot. Remember that primo gems are gone once you pull for characters, and that decision can either go long term or short term. I prefer the former, which is the long term, but how do you achieve that long term effect? One good approach before deciding to pull on a limited banner in Genshin is to make meaningful priorities. These priorities vary based on what character you are pulling and the situation around the meta itself. The first priority is character roles, starting from where you begin your journey into that to taking on floor 12 of the Abyss. The characters you need are going to depend on what tools they provide. In Genshin, we have specific roles such as DPS, support, shielder, and healer. DPS characters are going to be your go-to units, especially when you're a beginner. The reason is because in most cases, offensive gameplay is going to be what is favored, especially in endgame. You're gonna start seeing level 100 enemies only losing a small fraction of their health, even though you have a fully built character dealing damage. You're gonna see lots of Fatui enemies triggering their shields or killing you instantly, and you're also gonna need to have more than one DPS character to actually get through Spiral Abyss because of the teams being divided into first half and second half. So DPS characters are very important to look for even if you already have a few of them. The second one is the support characters. These are the ones helping your DPS characters reach higher output, either from off-field or directly on the field. Characters like Kazuha is a perfect example of a support character. She enables your DPS to strike multiple enemies at once by dragging them into one place, increases your team's elemental damage, and also shreds enemies' elemental resistance with the Viridescent Venerer set. So if you're all good with the DPS you have, you can start making them more effective with support characters. Shield characters are generally only important to have in endgame, where enemies start to have stronger attacks that can kill your characters in one move. But picking a good shield character is also hard because you need to make sure that the shield is strong enough to prevent your DPS characters from falling to the ground. Characters like Zhongli is possibly the only shield character that doesn't have this problem because his skill ensures that his shield is sustainable for a long period of time. So if you're looking for a shield character other than Zhongli, try to choose wisely. The last one is healer characters. They basically work as your failsafe feature when everything in your battle falls apart, and can possibly return your team back to life if they have a skill like Barbara's. Characters that only serves this role, however, is extremely situational, and you shouldn't really bother focusing on getting these characters since some of them are already free or will eventually spook you in your pulling session. So those are the roles that have their respective priorities based on my recommendations. Now, depending on what characters you have and how far they have been built, priorities may vary from beginners to high-level players. Characters also tend to be a hybrid of 2 or more roles, so what you're seeing right now is ultimately just a guideline. And when you already have all the characters needed in your roster, it's only a matter of whether you're interested in getting a new one to have some more fun or just skip away. So it's a nice priority to have. Lastly, don't forget to pay attention to your unit's element to manage your team's synergy more effectively. The next priority you can consider is based on their region and materials. To put it simply, you don't want to pull for characters you can't even start building yet. If you find a Yaka in the banner, you have to make sure you already have Inazuma and the boss of her materials unlocked. If you got a Yaka and you realize only after that you haven't even met Zhongli in the Archon quest yet, well, have fun benching her until you can actually use her in game. But that's basically it, so let's move on to the next priority. Another small trick to make an educated guess on pulling a limited character is waiting for Hoyoverse themselves. Since nowadays they always reveal future characters before a version release and character banners days before they go live, it is possible to be aware of potential strong characters in the future, while also securing a character in the current banner, if that makes sense. Most people, however, tend to just pull immediately after a banner is up. Try not to pull day one if you really want to be safe. And for the last but not least, I would like to tell you something. One thing I learned about the Raiden Shogun incident, where her banner was released, is that people can't always judge a limited character in one day. At the beginning, she was perceived as lacking damage because all her output is gated by the amount of constellations you need to acquire. Not to mention the beta bugs that was occurring. The next day, people started spamming her in floor 12 and she literally destroyed Rift Hounds in 2 hits. If you really want to make sure a character is worth to acquire, then what you need is patience. Wait until the character is fully tested by the community. Do not jump to conclusions by listening to first impressions. Look for the trend that is building up, especially in Spiral Abyss. Find a pattern of meta that Hoyoverse is making for the future. Either they want you to start making mono elemental team, or a normal attack team, or even a new national team. Hindsight is very important, and only time will bring you to the truth. And so those are the priorities you can consider so far. If you got the character you look for and they perform well for you, congratulations! Everything is according to plan. But now, you may be curious if you could snatch that shiny Ammo's bow to give to your Ganyu, or you want to spam more charge attacks with your Hu Tao Constellations? I actually have something to say about that as well. So now you got the character you wanted, but you're low on Primogems and you want to go all in? Which one should you go for? Constellations or weapons? As bitter as the fact that weapons require you to spend more Primogems than a constellation, I would still recommend you going for weapons. So if we take a big picture of how constellations work, they are essentially something that augments your gameplay by a relatively slight amount. They don't guarantee significant or drastic changes to each character, because each constellation node varies among characters. Child's first constellation, for example, reduces skill cooldown by a small percentage. It's a neat improvement on paper, but it's not a direct upgrade to Child's damage output. It means you still need a decent build for Child if you want the constellation to be effective. Some characters even need you to go for a higher constellation level if you want better results. There's just too much to consider about constellations, and I would only consider getting them if I had already taken my characters to the ceiling of their output. or if I were a huge whale. Zhao's 5-star weapon, on the other hand, brings more things to the table. He gains more base attack, a crit rate substat to compensate his lack of crit value, and a handful of passive weapon skill that takes effect in most of situations. The increase is much higher and noticeable. Even if you got spooked at the end by a rate-up weapon you didn't want, you can still use that weapon, sort of, for any other characters you have. Give it to Bennett or Kujo-Sara or even Keqing. Beware of that cheat Constellations, by the way, because it's definitely gonna hurt. In short, go for weapons, because weapons bring way more impact to your account. In spite of me saying this, always remember though, that Constellations or 5-star weapons are not required to make your limited characters viable. They are limited 5-star characters for a reason. It means that they may serve a very specific role for your team or deliver substantial results. You typically don't need them. Only pull if you're able to commit and willing to risk wasting your effort. So that's it for my way of planning ahead for limited banners. I hope it has been helpful, and to you who already has your own way of doing gachas in Genshin, why not share your own methods here? Or do you have any questions? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for tuning in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and see you next time.